The rest of the news, $11 million. That, according to a new report, is how much America's two largest private prison companies spent over the last 6 years lobbying Congress to keep detention centers stock full of undocumented immigrants. The report, which was released on Wednesday by a group called Grassroots Leadership, goes on to detail how this lobbying surge led to a $478 million windfall for companies like GEO Group and the Corrections Corporation of America, CCA. Immigration detention centers, though, are just one arm of the private prison empire. Since 1980, that industry has grown by more than 1,700%, and companies like CCA and GEO Group now make around $122 a day from each prisoner locked up at their facilities. All this has come, of course, with a price. Broken families, broken lives, and shattered communities that are the end result of a criminal justice system run amok. But now some people are fighting back. With me now to talk about how is Flavia Jimenez, Senior Attorney and Director of Immigrant Justice at the Advancement Project. Flavia, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Great to have you with us.
Great to be here.
This week is Prison Divestment Week of Engagement.
That's
what
right.
is that? What does that mean?
Yeah, it's a time for the movement on divestment generally, but specifically on prison divestment, to come together and pressure municipalities and colleges, primarily universities, at the forefront to say enough is enough. We've had enough with corporations making money off of the suffering and the tearing apart of families. And so this is just the beginning. Tomorrow we will be hosting a Twitter town hall at 2:30 Eastern to talk about the prison divestment opportunities and possibilities and where we can be redirecting the investments away from the private prisons that lock up families and towards education and restorative practices.
It seems that in almost every area of our commons where private corporations running on the profit motive have gotten involved, the commons has started to disintegrate. We're seeing this in education with charter schools. We're seeing it in prisons with these private prison companies. We saw it all over Iraq and Afghanistan with private contractors coming in and doing shoddy work and shooting people up and all kinds of stuff. Is it possible to even envision a day when companies, private for-profit companies like CCA, no longer exist, no longer are needed, that when we reclaim our commons?
Well, it's really about what we want in this democracy, right? Whether or not we are in fact a democracy that holds our service deliverers accountable, right. Whether there is in fact transparency. The fact that there is profit motive around issues of incarceration creates a vicious cycle. Yeah. It creates a cycle in which we've seen the Bureau of Prison budget double in the past 14 years. We've seen the immigration customs enforcement in terms of detention appropriations double in the past 14 years. And we are seeing that then more people are incarcerated. We've criminalized immigration. We are, in fact, a nation of immigrants that has criminalized immigration to the point where now there is a bed quota of 34,000 people a day. And 9 out of 10 detention centers in this country, as the Grassroots Leadership report that you noted earlier states, are run by private corporations. So what is the profit motive to increase the detention of immigrants that have never committed a crime, but that have only committed a civil infraction in our law? And we continue to see that these push towards criminalization of communities of color. And this happens in the immigrant community. It happens in the African American community with incentives to criminalize and racially profile that then put more people behind bars as opposed to offering them opportunities to improve their lives and their economic situations so that they can thrive and their communities can thrive.
We have seen an explosion in the prison population in the United States. Everybody talks about how we have more prisoners in the United States than any other country in the world. But if you look at this graph, I mean, that explosion started basically with the Reagan presidency. Arguably the Nixon presidency, Nixon's war on drugs started it, but then it really got steep after 1981. And now it's just totally out of control. What do we do about this?
Well,
this doesn't include, I don't believe, immigrants who are in detention.
Right. That's right. So the graph that you just showed are prison. That's what part of the problem that we are facing right now is that we see the issues around mass incarceration that are siloed from issues of immigrant detention. And they're really very, very similar when you really start to study the conditions under which we are holding families in what is called the Southern Texas Residential Center. Well, let me tell you, that prison in Diley, Texas is not a residential center. It is not what it sounds. It is not public housing. It is a prison. And we are imprisoning families right now that have legitimate asylum claims. And guess what? That prison is privately run. There are $159 per bed, 2,400 beds. You do the math. Right. And in fact, when you start getting into the motives to start to figure out ways in which we can have fewer people behind bars and more people thriving in their communities, then you really start to unravel some of the incentives that our policymakers have in order to keep people behind bars. And many of those motives are racially motivated. And so we really need to be rethinking our public policies around education, around economic welfare, and basically do away with our mass incarceration system. I think that that includes immigration, and we can do that if we are creative, but we have the public behind us, and we want democracy to thrive in this country.
If people, we're just about out of time here, but if people want to participate in this, is there a website that they can go to?
Yes, they can go to, they can check out prison divestment, the week of action. The campaign website is run by an organization called Enlace, which is a great ally of the Advancement Projects. We are again hosting this Twitter town hall tomorrow, in which we can further discuss this, and we are happy to be starting a movement that in which Black Lives Matter and the immigrant rights movement will be joining forces May 3rd through 5th in Florida. So we're really looking forward to
Flavia, thanks so much for
Thank you so
being
much
with us tonight. I appreciate it.